Hello.
Hello.
I'm the Token Bird. Who are you?
I'm Harry Hotspur.
And is this some sort of podcast thing?
That's the shape of it.
Apparently there's a bit of music and we call it the intro. Here it comes. Show notes.
Show notes.
Because actually, contrary to what everybody might think, you do some prep.
Yeah, not much.
And so all I have to say is, tell me how you spell laboratory.
Laboratory. This is show notes.
Laboratory conditions.
Yeah, this is show notes.
If you do it in an Irish accent, laboratory.
No, this is show notes without the benefit of the app that I put in, because everybody who is anal that reads my blog.
Can't say that word on the BBC.
You can. Used to pull me up on typos, and life's too short for typos. So I got a free app, and that's why, unless I completely miss a word out or something these days, I'm pretty bulletproof on the typo front. So these show notes are phonetic. That's what you're up against.
So, what the hell are you talking about laboratories for?
Laboratory conditions.
Yes.
No. Well, you see.
God, we'll get there in the end.
Well, if you ask me a question opposed to just picking a fight and then walking off, that's not a dialogue.
No, that's me winning.
Yeah. Okay, so laboratory conditions, which is the bit you've read here.
Laboratory.
You've phonetically read here.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the point I was making was the fact that the Europa League game against Lask or however you want to mispronounce it.
Österreich.
Mispronunciate it, but it was a really good game.
I enjoyed it.
It was West Ham without the penalty, without the equalisers.
Without the cock-ups.
Yeah, West Ham without West Ham, who drew 1-1 with City, which is fascinating.
I know. I think that might say more about City, though.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Premier League table and points later, because I've got some really boring commentary on that.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, death-defying. But no, it was a good game, and I think it was evident from Jose's reaction after the game. He was pleased, but he wasn't ecstatic, and I understand why. And he's getting used to the Tottenham way and the fact that you can't have too many goals. And I think he understands the enormity of the task, both in that competition and just generally. Mm-hmm. And although he's reinforced enormously, and we've covered that, and we can keep on covering it because it's just bloody brilliant, he does not take lightly kind of where we are and how vulnerable we can be. And that's what he wants to do, in my opinion, as an expert, is he wants to get Tottenham to a point where the vulnerability factor is really low. And he knows that only 7-8 days ago we had that West Ham kerfuffle, and that proved that we're as thin-skinned as they come. So 3-0 against...
Was that thin-skinnedness, or was that just doing some incompetence?
I looked at it in terms of statistically, and I couldn't see anything that screamed about what went wrong. I don't use the stats which show how many yards people have run, because I'm not interested. I want to know what they do, what they achieve, rather than, what happened along the way. But there wasn't anybody who had a massive sort of beyond the obviously the Sanchez magnificent goal. Beyond that, but even beyond that, there wasn't anything there. So we're talking about individual errors, and that means lack of concentration. Okay. And it's that discipline that, because people talk about this, and we've spoken about it, that mental fragility. And another aspect of mental fragility is that you take your literally your eye off the ball, and I don't know where they're daydreaming.
I didn't see their heads drop though in that last.
No,
game.
Their heads didn't drop, but their brains dropped. That was the problem. Their brains dropped. Their footballing brains dropped. And so you get to a scenario whereby, sounding like Baldrick here, but from one set of affairs whereby we're winning by 3-0, where you get to a separate set of affairs whereby it's 3 goals each. And that's just... So what happened? How did we identify what went wrong? And I just think they just... A couple of them for a nanosecond switched off, and you can't do it. You just cannot do it.
That's not so much mindset, though, or head-stopping, as
it's
just keeping the mental...
That's right.
Concentration up, as well as the physical.
Correct.
work.
And that's where you talk about muscle memory. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is like brain memory. So I've just invented an entire new thing here of neurology.
That is cognitive already, memory, so it's already brain.
Well, okay, so I just don't know the words. But the point being is that you need to master that part of the brain. Yeah, nobody's interested.
I will make them interested.
Run along, man talk. But we're typo talk. But what we're talking about here is the thing that they keep their brain going that says this isn't over until it's over, and so stay awake, stay focused. And we'll come on to him later, but dear me, Hojbjerg is the epitome of that. This guy, I think, I don't know, he's a cyborg.
He's on it like a carbonate, isn't he?
Yeah, it's on like Fat Pat's thong. He is a cyborg sent from the future to the past.
Do you want to talk about him now then, or do you want to have a go?
No.
Do you want to? Should we?
No.
Well, so we won that game.
Yeah.
That's taken us a little bit further down the marathon that is Europa.
Well, it's a war of attrition, and it's worth pointing out here, because I will pick and choose bob and weave, to get my moments to give.
When's the last time you bobbed and weaved?
I can't, for legal reasons, I can't go into that. But to have a swipe at Poch while he's still resting in his unemployment grave, in defence of Mourinho. This is, and just for a nanosecond here, this business with Manchester United fans, there was a piece in the Manchester Evening News, and I can't remember the name, it was Dominic something, and this cretin had written this piece that, United had already moved on from Mourinho, and I suggested he put the champagne on ice, because saying you've moved on when you haven't moved on leaves you slightly open to the guy was a clown. And the point being is that Mourinho is the only manager to have won anything at Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson left. So there's a big pause after that statement. And then we introduce some even more cold reality for little Dom. And that's that if you get through to the final of the Europa League competition, you've played an additional 19 games, which is another half a Premier League season.
Yeah, that's massive.
It is huge, and really, you should get more than one trophy. There should be something to reflect the enormity of that, and it isn't. It's Europe's second poor relation. When it was the UEFA Cup and we won it, I was running around the front room in the house in Germany shouting champions of Europe, and I didn't care it was the second tier thing because it wasn't the European Cup. Yeah. But Jesus, it was big, super big. I mean, and you could say, and I think it's a miserable state of affairs, Mourinho referenced it the other day, that just when you think you're ahead in this tournament, the scumbags from the Champions League get edged out, and you have to fight them. And these are wounded animals who are the most dangerous sort that have been not humiliated, but they've been.
It's a second wave.
Yeah, they've been, and you don't know what you're going to get. Are you going to get somebody who's browbeaten, who's had enough, and just wants to go home and focus on the league, and any domestic competitions, or are you going to get somebody who says, well, actually, look, we've come a hell of a long way. It seems pretty stupid to down tools now. So to get that second blast as well. It is a war of attrition.
Who'd have thought football authorities making things more difficult so they can make more money?
It's thrown me. That's completely thrown me. So, couple of points on that game about players. Dele Alli, I think we should mention.
He's your favourite player ever, isn't he? You love Dele Alli.
Sitting in a tree, Kissin. No, well, I'll tell you what it is with Dele Alli, and this will, I can't help it. It's not my fault, but I get a lot right. And Okay, so that's me being magnanimous in victory. I get a lot right, and I called him out early on as not being good enough. And I've listened to every excuse in the book, and I think the excuses have dried up. And I think everybody's had enough, and I think he's had enough. And I did a piece on the blog about his body language. Managed to get a photo, remarkably, which was the exact moment that he touched skin with Gareth Bale as they were, they do, excuse me, they do that sort of one-handed high five thing as they said, come on. Dele Alli was revealing. He looked uncomfortable. And I said in the blog, I really felt, and we were talking about the influence of fans, I really felt he could have done with a round or two of We've Got Dele. Dele and all that business. He looked uncomfortable. It was a perfunctory sort of touch with Bale, and then he made a more concerted, more animated contact with obviously his long-standing teammate Eric Lamela when he came off. But I thought he looked uncomfortable. I get the impression. this is real insight, real analysis here. Because it's happening, a child could tell you. But Mourinho's watching him. I don't think Pochettino ever watched him. I think he put him on, left him on forever, and if he got an assist or something came out of it, along the 95 minutes, then all well and good. But if it didn't mean he wasn't going to start next week. And Mourinho's just managing him, and I think he's going to manage him out the door. And for me, he's toast.
When?
Highly unlikely in the winter, and next summer I think is going to be really interesting. I'm amazed with the business that we did the window that's just gone. Dead chuffed, 11 out of 10, really difficult to say. I couldn't have, there was anything missing. But winter windows are difficult, but are they difficult if you've got Daniel Levy as your chairman and Jose Mourinho as your coach? We'll find out. But I would be surprised if he goes in the winter, but I think he's gone next summer. Unless something miraculous happens.
Like he pulls his finger out.
Yeah. And doesn't do any silly little flippy, clippy, tricky things with it. Just pulls it straight out from where it is currently lodged.
So I actually think your criticisms of him are pretty fair. One person who I think's come in for some unfair criticism is Gareth Bale.
Yeah, well, this goes back this goes back to my ongoing theme that there are lots of stupid people out there, and the way to safeguard your mental health and make the world a better place is not to listen to them.
Oh, so everybody's just switched off to this podcast now?
No, this is the jet set. This is the high rollers intellectually that we're dealing with. Martin Amos said, always aim at your top 5%. Now, sadly, I've only got 5 listeners. But I'm happy with that.
We'll take them all.
Well, yeah. So don't go anywhere, folks. But no, the business with Bale...
it's enough for a 5-a-side.
I'm in the middle of something here.
Oh, sorry. I didn't notice.
I did some heavy lifting research.
Is that why you look like that?
Yeah, exactly. This is like digging deep journalism.
Okay.
And I discovered that Gareth Bale's last match was in July against Villarreal. So you've got a 31-year-old who's been doing nothing more strenuous than bouncing his... Well, mind you, his daughter must be about 15 now. So I was going to say bouncing his daughter on his knee. That's probably not happening. But wandering around a golf course and pulling silly faces and making himself Wales... flags and all this sort of business. I'm not surprised that he isn't tippity top fitness. No. I think he'll get there. And what I did notice, again through using the ancient practice of actually watching him during the game, is that he's doing what I call intelligent running. Mm-hmm. And
intelligent sea running?
No. Intelligent running. And this is what Ledley King used to do. So it tells me that by the time Bale's 35, he'll still be able to get a game at a moderately good club.
He's got both his knees.
Yeah. And both of his buns.
Oh, yeah, I like the double bunning.
The double bunned.
I actually quite like the double bunning. Double bunning Bale. I also really liked the look of, see if I can say this right,
It's pronounced Carlos. I can help you there.
I keep getting the N and the C mixed up, and it might even be rude, I don't know. Vinicius rather than Vicinius.
Well, this is it. I thought it was Vinicius as well.
It is Vinicius, isn't it? Not Vicinius.
No, it's not
We
Vicinius.
know who plays for our football team, don't we?
Ish.
Carlos.
Well, I tell you what, and this, again, it's not my fault. I haven't set out to do this.
And that's what you're going to stick to that when it's in court, aren't you?
I've been in court more times than you've had haircuts. But the deal with this guy is that when we were in the process of signing him, I'd looked him up, and everybody was going on that he scored 18 goals one season or something in all competitions. And those goal tapes, they're very nice, but they don't tell you very much. Because at the risk of dragging out the dead, Vincent Janssen and Roberto Soldado had goal tapes. And so forgive my scepticism that this is the Bible, this is the go-to viewing. And so anyway, I pulled out of the old scouting bin half a dozen goals that he'd scored, half a dozen assists that he'd made. And what I couldn't believe, and assists is again another dubious thing, because being the person who passes to the person who scores can be not the most mind-blowing contribution to a football match. But his assists for Benfica were sensational.
They were absolutely amazing.
They were really intelligent, and they showed immense technical ability. And that, to me, said, well, wow, okay, he scored 18 goals. I don't need to go through them. I'm sure they all went in. I'm sure they were all legit. However, the fact that there was more to him, and this is my point, this is what we're building up to, is that this guy, to use the startup phrase, is disruptive. Because you add this second striker to an attacking 3, or whatever it might be, an attacking 2. And instead of having a guy who's patrolling, and this is the comment we made about Harry Kane the other week, that Mourinho's got him playing a more intelligent game, so he's providing assists as well as still scoring. This Carlos guy, he isn't just going backwards and forwards hoping to get his toe on the send or something. He's creating stuff, and he's not afraid to cut in and move and cross and all the rest of it. Yeah. And that was the thing about Dele Alli, incidentally. I can't remember it now, but I think it goes back to the summer. Dele Alli hasn't successfully crossed the ball in months. I think the last time was against Middlesbrough in the FA Cup, one of the early rounds of that. Now, this is a guy who doesn't play centrally. This is a guy who plays on the wings. Yeah. There's a problem there. It's nothing to do with being given a run out. He's been injured and all that nonsense. He's toast. And this guy comes on and he shook up the dynamic.
Yeah.
He shook up the dynamic of that front line. And Jose, I totally, I'm with you, brother. After the game, he said, we needed more goals. Good assists, but I want goals. But of course he's going to say that, because he's brought a striker.
Yeah.
So, it's not a complicated or a nasty demand. But the situation with this guy is he is so much more sophisticated than just a backup striker for Harry Kane, which is the dullest remit in the world.
Yeah, it is.
Because definitely. What you want in an understudy, say in a theatre production, you don't just want somebody else who knows the words. You want somebody who can hopefully, if the other guy gets hit by a bus, can come on and give his own performance.
Quite.
So it's this sort of boxed-in mentality, which we saw all these deadbeats we were listed with. Troy Deeney from Watford. They shoot me in the face if he ever starts for Spurs.
So we're actually scoring lots of goals under
the Portuguese Pulis.
Jussi.
Under the Portuguese Pulis.
Yeah. Who'd have thought it? I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah, well, this is it. And I can't emphasise this enough. And this is another one of these cringingly boring things that nobody wants to talk about. You can't get the points back that you drop now later on in the season. All you can do is you can either rue them, which is fundamentally a thankless task, because when it's gone, it's gone, or you can sit there and this is, let's call it right. Spurs community are very good at this. At the end of the season, 4 games to go, they will draw up, have endless pages of discussion about, so how many points can we get from our remaining 4 games?
Oh, times it by 3.
Well, no. What I'm saying is how much... we all know the maximum. But what I'm saying is, do you think we could beat West Bromwich Albion in a way it was very difficult? What you do is you don't drop points at the beginning of the season. And this is why we had this whole thing with Spurs, whereby, Harry Kane doesn't score till Christmas or whatever the thing was. We don't have a pre-season. We don't this, don't... All of these wretched little... awful little parasitical little excuses already lined up, so that by the time we hit Christmas and the congestions have piled up, we've already conceded 10 goals, which says we're going to be in a dogfight for the top 4, top 6, if we are lucky and if other horses in the race fall over. And so looking at the thing now, we're scoring lots of goals. We've got players like Bale who are extraordinary, who have still yet to sort of come to their fruition. And we must keep our eyes on the likes of Everton, who look pretty imperious under Ancelotti. Never thought I'd ever say some of that sentence out loud. And Liverpool. And there's a lot of dubious characters kicking around in the table at the moment. And I'm looking at you, Aston Villa, and I'm looking at you, Leeds United and Palace. You're not going to be there in 6 weeks. So it's really important.
What's saying though, I'm enjoying the fact that Leeds United are in the Premier League.
No, they're fantastic. And I of all the teams that have come up, I just like the way they're set up.
Aston Villa and Leeds United are proper football team.
I also like the fact that Bielsa doesn't speak any English. And so you have the reverse of the and here we go, another dig in the shoulder blades. We have the reverse of the Pochettino thing, where he doesn't bore us with the philosophy and all the not, because this is supposedly his grandfather.
Very, very happy.
Yeah, he is just getting on with it. And, more of that, please.
One player who I absolutely loved watching the other night in our European game, who I think is hard as nuts.
Oh, yep.
Hojbjerg.
I love him.
I'll give him a hard G.
Well, I'll tell you what, you won't get harder. You won't get harder than he is himself. The video of the moment that he clatters through, it's on the blog. If you haven't seen it, go and find it. It's not difficult to find. And I advise you to turn the sound up, because there's no... Really? It's a clip. I don't know what nationality the broadcaster was. It's like Latvian or something, I don't know. But you can hit the ball comes up. They're on the chalk on the boots, coming up the side of the pitch on the wing, and you can hear this noise. Oy. And that noise, folks, is Hojbjerg's cheekbone going through the back of a Lask attacker's head. This is the sort of noise, and I forgive the vivid language here, but this is the sort of noise that you might expect to hear in like an abattoir. It was a really grisly, awful noise. And the thwack noise is on the heels of it. There is the plaintive cry of the Lask player as he hits the floor. Now, what happens immediately after that, because we're going through it frame by frame, because it was such a brilliant moment for a Spurs player, is the referee blows the whistle, because Hojbjerg's carried on. And he looks like he's just come out of a Glasgow pub at closing time.
He was covered in claret.
He's got claret all over him, and he goes, what? And he said, mate, you've just fallen out of an aeroplane.
You can't see out of your eye.
You've just fallen out of an aeroplane onto a concrete bit of pavement. You don't look well. And this guy is struggling to breathe. You've concussed him. But what was great, and this is, again, if you go to the blog, theboyhotspur.com, you will find a bonus video on there, which because I was going through all the scouting clips and all the rest of it. And about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes after this tackle, so he's been bandy-joed up and he's got the old Terry Baker thing on. And Butcher, not Baker. See what I did there? Anyway, so, and one of their players clatters into one of ours, who goes face down, and Hojbjerg is stood over him with his hands open, basically offering the bloke out, the last player, knocking one of our guys down. And the referee's got his finger in the middle of his sort of solar plexus, and he's blowing his whistle, and he said, look, just leave it. Because neither of these guys are getting up in a hurry.
Leave it, fellas.
Yeah. But I just think he's fantastic. And
We needed some of this.
But it's been missing. It's been missing. And also, he is a captain without an armband, is what Jose called him afterwards. Which is, wow, that's language that is really to his credit. And I'm sure he won't take slight by it. But he's just exquisitely nasty. And he's not a dirty player. He's just as tough as boots.
Yeah. We definitely needed some of that toughness.
No, he's just fantastic. But there's loads of clenched fist and let's get on with it and get stuck in. And you see him giving guidance and instruction to players around him. And we haven't had that. We've not had that since forever. Probably, I don't know. I mean, Graham Roberts, he was great when you're 15. But, the memory doesn't kind of linger with that guy. He did walk through wars and all the rest of it. But this is the real deal, and we're looking at football in the 21st century. And for me, the 21st century Tottenham player and Pierre Hojbjerg is the absolute business.
No, I think he's ace. So talking of business, Sonny contract.
Yep. Reasons to be cheerful. Massive guy. Apparently, somebody said on the blog earlier, at theboyhotspur.com, that... I don't know where all this is.
If you can read. Can they read?
Well, my lot can. They're professionals. But somebody said we've got 11 million fans in South Korea or in...
Apparently he's like the most famous, and we're like, there's no such thing as Man United anymore. It's all Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, that was a long time ago. That was it Kum Yung Park or something. I mean, that was a long time ago.
I came.
But
we're old.
You're old. I'm the Peter Pan of pop. I'm not worried about all that. But the Sonny contract, it's that's what the judge said. But no, the point being is the Sonny contract is brilliant, but it does highlight, because I have to drag everything back to the misery, of course.
Of course.
But it does highlight how implausibly badly Spurs had been run under the previous, whoever they were, Levy and Poch. Because the change management, and that's the thing I always made on the plot, it was so painful. We haven't got a striker. I mean, we saw on the Amazon video, so I suppose we should look for a striker. That was recorded 18 months ago or something stupid, or a year ago. Come on. And it was with Moussa Dembele. We didn't start looking for a replacement for him until he was literally on his way to the airport to go to China. It's just embarrassing. So the point I'm making here is that we've got Sonny. Who wants to get rid of him? Hands up. Nobody. So we've got the player here. It's contracted in 2023. Mm-hmm. We're all grown-ups. We're not children. So therefore, we don't let this star player wind his deal down. Until a fortnight before the thing's up, which is what we did with Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and of course, crucially, Christian Eriksen. And that whole thing was so representative of the blockage in the speed of thought that was going on inside the club. And I've heard everything. So don't even bother. I've heard everything. Oh no, Mr. Levy wasn't distracted by the stadium build. No, that couldn't have possibly been the case. Oh no, Pochettino said he was very happy with the squad. No, that couldn't have possibly been. So you can take all that and put it on your roses, right? That doesn't make... No, it's just guano. It doesn't stand up to a nanosecond of scrutiny. It's just absolute nonsense. And what they should have done is nailed those deals down. And if you want proof, absolute... ironclad proof that Spurs got it wrong with Eriksen, who, as Mourinho pointed out in the Amazon thing, stopped playing because he didn't want to get injured, which makes perfect sense. But then, how come Eriksen goes to Milan for €20 million, and then within 8 months, because the club's in a bit of a mess, it's not all his fault, but he hasn't really come out of that coma and started playing like he did for us when he was really good. Then they're trying to sell him for 40 million euro. Sorry, 50 million euro.
Oh, okay.
Now, if that doesn't indicate a fiasco, so it's great to see that under...
You've been proved right again.
Yeah, well, like I say, I have to apologise. I didn't set out to be right, but the point that it just happened. But the point being is that Sonny, get it nailed and get it done now. And yes, he's worth every single shekel of £200,000 a week because he's rock and roll. He's become a great player. I was going to reference somebody I used to work for who took forever to... My assistant is pointing at something in the notes, but we won't do that because he probably would sue.
I was going to say.
But the other one I'm going to mention later, he definitely won't sue, and he's actually a solicitor now, so we're all right.
Well, I'm not saying that out loud. Okay, yeah, well, we're scrolling.
Sorry, this is half the game, folks. You've got to know who is really litigious and who just might, have a go at you.
Yeah. Perhaps don't bob it in the notes next time, mate. Hoddle. I like a good bit of Hoddle. He was having a natter after the game.
Yes, and
I thought he had quite a smart suit as well.
I thought he was what do you call it? A sartorial car crash. He'd gone for sort of
country. You do know your suits.
He'd gone for country gent with Hugo Boss trainers on. Do you know they're £300 those shoes?
Really?
You know the blue ones with the white band around them?
Right. I thought they did.
They're £300.
I thought they looked all right.
And that's in the shops.
When they did the sort of panning in from afar.
Yeah. They just didn't work with his tweed thing. I mean, he virtually had sort of like...
Maybe it was like the gym in school and you in the studio,
this
right?
sounds torturous.
You're not allowed to wear proper shoes. You have to put the pumps on. So maybe you had to wear pumps for the BT studio.
Is it possible to switch half this microphone off? Hoddle, yeah, this is the thing, and this is me. Now, listen, I slate Spurs fans endlessly, but I have to do it with the caveat that I'm aiming at a certain percentage of them who are fundamentally dummies. All right, there's no nice way of dressing it up. So I'm not aiming at all of them because obviously my 1 million readers every month are intelligent, forward-thinking human beings.
Clearly they are, yeah. And smart people.
Super smart people. And people that perhaps draw from other wells are wondering why they constantly have upset tummies, right? But the point being is here that Hoddle reminded me in what he said, because he said Spurs need a trophy.
Certainly do.
And my guy, Bruce, who did a piece on the blog, said he'd even take the Carabao Cup.
Well, that would be fun.
Right? Now, the point being is, both of these guys...
Something's better than now.
No. It's not about something's better than now, because this is all like... This is about to stop mucking about and to actually win something. And stop bickering over what's wrong with the thing that you're going to win. No, I'm reminded of being a teenager.
It's a cup.
I'm reminded of being a teenager in a pub with a friend of mine, Matt Oz. And we were both very young men, inexperienced in the ways of the world.
One time.
Yeah. And it just reminded me of virgins in a pub picking
where are we going with this?
Picking faults in women that they were never going to speak to.
Oh, male virgins.
Are you going to go and talk to those guys? Oh, no, she's got big feet. Honestly. Absolute. And yeah, anyway, I can't...
Well, you know what they say about girls with big feet.
Yeah. Their dad's a policeman. What have we got left?
The future, darling.
The future?
Burnley.
Oh, Burnley.
Going up north... on a Monday.
On a wet night.
On a wet, cold Monday night. We don't tend to be that well known for doing very well on that sort of a gig.
Right. Well, this is the banana skin of all times then, because I've had a wee look at Burnley's form and they're rubbish. This season... No. Forget the old... yeah. They're always grim up there. This season, they've conceded 9 goals.
Okay.
Their last game...
God, you're doing stats.
Yeah,
Go on.
Their last game was their first game that they salvaged anything from, and they got a point against West Brom, against the Boing Boing Baggies. But just to put that into...
You're allowed to say that.
You certainly can. And just to put that into perspective, West Brom are -8. So this goes down to my whole thing about don't say, oh yeah, let's look at it at Christmas. No, let's look at it now, because the carnage has already been done. So -9, that makes Burnley one of the worst teams for conceding goals in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. And they've only gained 1 point in their 6 games, and that was against West Brom, who are -8. So if we can just sort of kind of take a moment and strip away from all of this sort of mumbo-jumbo, witch doctor business of all Burnley, Monday night, don't fancy it. I tell you, if you want to lose against Burnley, start Dele Alli. He's somebody who doesn't fancy it on a Monday night.
We were there for that Paulinho non-target didn't happen.
Oh, the clearance.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, the clearance. I have to say, in fair dues to Burnley, their away section is proper.
Yeah.
That's like, if you're looking for, if anybody trendy
like
out
it
there,
there.
if Burnley go pop, there is a lot of reclaimed wood to be had from the away section at Burnley. They do a proper old fashioned, like, you remember when you were a kid and the swings were painted over the rust like 20 times?
Yeah.
There was about 18 layers of paint on the seats. So yeah, that make a nice sort of
another proper club, but hopefully one that we should absolutely batter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And predictions?
We will beat Burnley by lots of goals. There's absolutely no reason at all why Spurs can't go bonkers at Burnley and
bonkers at Burnley.
Exactly, you heard it here last. But and score 3 or 4. There's no reason at all. Burnley can't score and they can't defend. So you're all right.
I want a squeaky chair. I need a different chair
right.
for
it
next
was the dog.
time.
It was not in the room. But the point being is that we should absolutely thump them.
In the meantime,
keep it Tottenham.